Hey, what's up guys, the Jordy here, back again with another Shadowverse card reveal, and this is for the Storm Over Reveal mini expansion, which is coming out later in the month. I am super hyped for this card because I think it is very cool, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Shout out to Shadowverse once again for hooking it up and letting me do a rare card reveal for them, and thanks everyone for supporting the channel, because without you guys I wouldn't be getting these card reveals. So yeah, let's get into this card. I am super stoked on it. This is my second time recording this video because the first time my mic was muted, so I'm kind of upset, but yeah, let's get into it. So the card is called Fairy Flowering, and in Japanese it is called Yosei no Kaika. As you can see, the art is very nice. I think it's using the fairy legendary from the anime, so it's pretty cool. As you can see, it is a 2 play point golden spell card for Forest Craft, and the effect: give an allied Forest Craft follower the ability to evolve for 0 evolution points. If you have played cards using the accelerate effect at least 2 times this match, draw a card. Then at least 4 times, give the selected follower +2/+2. Then if it's at least 6 times, give it Storm. So I'm going to go over this effect in just a second, but in Japanese it is, of course, Yosei no Kaika ni PP Elfu spellu accelerate wa nankai. Jibun no Elfu follower 1体は EP を消費せず進化できるを持つ。1ターンに1体しか進化できない制限はある。自分がこのバトル中にアクセラレートした回数が2回以上ならカードを1枚引く。4回以上ならさらに+2/+2する。6回以上ならさらに思想を持つ。So yeah, this card is a very cool spell card, as you can probably tell. It is supporting the Accelerate archetype, which they have been pushing in Forest Craft recently. And so first of all, 2 play points, you get to evolve a Forest Craft follower. Like, that's pretty standard. It's pretty similar to Soothing Spell actually, which is a 2 play point Forest Craft spell, except that one gives you an extra evolution point. This one you have to target a follower on your board already to get and let it evolve. And so it's a little bit less flexible in that sense. However, it makes up for that by having these extra bonus effects. So playing 2 accelerate cards, I think that condition is really easy to hit. You're going to be able to play 2 accelerate effects every game essentially if you're playing accelerate cards. And so it's going to be able to cycle itself. Then at least 4 times. This is probably the weakest effect of this card because this card has 4 parts to it, and this is probably the weakest. Giving your follower +2/+2, I think just getting the extra stats, while it's nice of course, it's not going to be like super significant. But once you play Accelerate effect 6 times, that's when this card gets really interesting because it gives your Forest Craft follower Storm. Now this is very important for Forest Craft because at the moment Forest Craft doesn't really have much burst damage because Whirlwind Rhinoceros got rotated out. The Forest Craft just doesn't have an OTK. And if you want to play a Forest Craft deck with like burst, you would have to be playing like an aggro forest deck with Amataz. So the Storm was very necessary, I think, for Forest Craft because for the longest time Forest Craft wasn't being played in the meta because it just didn't have reliable win conditions. And yeah, this kind of gives the option for Forest Craft to have more win conditions, I think. So Forest Craft has a couple of decks that you can play in the current meta. Here's a couple of them. The first one is like an Accelerate control deck. Because Fairy Flowering does revolve around having Accelerate cards, the current Accelerate deck is a pretty slow control based deck. Now I don't actually think Fairy Flowering is going to be very good in a control Accelerate Forest deck. The reason is that this deck doesn't really have much pressure on your opponent. It's all about controlling the board, recovering a lot of health, and just grinding out your opponent out. And so because you're not getting damage in, giving a follower Storm is not going to win you the game. So I don't think Fairy Flowering is going to be a card that's that good in Accelerate control. If you're going to be playing Accelerate, you're going to have to take this list maybe as a starting point and then remove a lot of the slower stuff to add more early game so you can get some more damage in. So I think it's going to be kind of like a mix of the Accelerate with what we see at the moment with Cowboy or Combo Force. So this is a deck that got very popular recently for Forest Craft, and it revolves around your Life Banquet, getting out the anomalies to OTK your opponent, or using your Loxy and using the neutral amulets to pretty much gain a lot of tempo, a lot of mid-range board presence, and then just kind of closing out the games from small chip damage. And gain the small chip damage, like I said, is going to be really good because the Fairy Flowering gives a Forest Craft Follower a Storm, and so you could close out a lot more games quicker, I think, with that card. Now, of course, with the Combo Forest or Cowboy Forest, there's not any Accelerate cards in it aside from the Deepwood Wolf, so you would have to make a new variation of the deck where you can include more Accelerate cards so that you can consistently hit 6 Accelerate plays in a game. How that exactly looks like, I'm not too sure at the moment because I don't have perfect information of what the other Forest Craft card is going to be, and also what the neutral cards are going to be like. So thinking about some cards that could work well with Fairy Flowering by gaining Storm is of course going to be the Deepwood Anomaly. This is when you get it off the Life Banquet if you played 8 cards on the turn. And yeah, because giving your Deepwood Anomaly Storm with the Leader Strike, it just OTKs your opponent. So if we can build a deck where you can consistently get Deepwood Anomaly out, which you can do with this Combo Forest build, and being able to play an extra 2, and if you have 2 extra play points to give your Deepwood Anomaly Storm, if you had 6 Accelerate cards played, you could get an OTK. Now there's a lot of conditions you have to hit here. Like, first of all, you have to get your Life Banquet out, which sometimes is pretty hard without having the right setup. And then now also you have to play 6 Accelerate cards. So while this is an OTK, it takes a lot of work to get. So I'm not too sure how viable this will be. I think Fairy Flowering is actually going to be more suited for decks that just kind of get small chip damage in, and then you just close it out with the Fairy Flowering. So cards like Lumbering Carapace, for example, if you're just playing like a kind of mid-range Accelerate / Tempo Forest deck, and then you could play a lot of cheap cards on your turn. A lot of like Accelerate cards are very cheap. And then you play Lumbering Carapace. He gains the +4 worth of attack with his Fanfare, giving him 5 attack, plus his Evil gives him +2. And then with the effect of Fairy Flowering, he's going to go up to 9 attack, which is almost half of your opponent's life, which is probably enough if you're playing like a more aggressive Fairy build. Another way you could build the deck is maybe using Awakened Gaia. So if you're playing like Natura cards and Accelerate cards to maybe try to hit off your Life Banquet, Awakened Gaia could also be another option to give Storm, because you might be able to get your Awakened Gaia down to like 0 or 4 costs, and then if you could use his Fanfare ability to wipe out your opponent's board if they have like wards, and then give it Storm and he becomes 10 attack, that could be a lot of damage, and it could just be lethal in a lot of cases. In terms of like, so I did a search of the follower pool in Forest at the moment, and the highest attack follower is Primogiant, which you can't really count because Primogiant is 9 costs. You won't have enough play points to play the 2 play point spell. So Awakened Gaia is the second highest attack follower for Forest Craft at the moment. So this is like the most amount of burst damage you could do is around 10. So very briefly about Unlimited, I would say this card is not going to be very suited for Unlimited, mainly because in Unlimited, Roach Force is so popular, and it's the strongest build that you could. It's the strongest archetype that you could play in Forest Craft for Unlimited. So I think this card is going to be mainly just a rotation card, similar to like Life Banquet. You don't really see that card played at all in Unlimited, and it's just more of a rotation card. So some quick pros and cons of Fairy Flowering. First of all, with the pros, you get to evolve more followers, which is always just good because you get to hit evolution counts, like for Resolve of the Fallen, for example. Also, you just gain better board control, board tempo, so extra evolution is always nice to have. It essentially cycles itself because, like I said, I think hitting 2 Accelerate effects played is really easy to hit, so you're almost every time you're going to be able to draw a card off of this Fairy Flowering. And finally, this card finally gives Forest Craft some burst damage, which has been lacking since the rotation of Whirlwind Rhinoceroach. So I think that's very important for the class. Cons: you do have to play this card with Accelerate cards. You can't just jam Fairy Flowering in any Forest deck that you want. Unfortunately, you do have to include a significant amount of Accelerate cards, because to hit 6 Accelerate cards played, a good portion of your deck needs to have Accelerate cards, otherwise you're not going to be drawing enough Accelerate stuff to reach these conditions. And this kind of makes Fairy Flowering a card where when you start building your deck, you include this card first, and then you have to start adding cards to play with it. Because if you include Fairy Flower in your deck, you're going to be thinking, okay, if I'm playing this card, I need Accelerate cards. And if I want to hit 6 Accelerate cards, then what followers do I want to be giving Storm in ideal situations? So this card is something where it is going to be a very powerful card in your deck if you build it correctly, so you have to build enough support around it. Another con is that to hit 6 Accelerate cards played in the game, I think that's going to take quite a while. Even if you build half your deck with Accelerate cards, the Accelerate cards don't do too much in progressing your win. You're going to be playing Accelerate cards here and there, and by the time you hit 6, it's probably going to be at the start of the late game. So yeah, that's the card I'm reviewing this time around for the Storm over Reveal mini expansion. Let me know what you guys think about this card in the comments down below. Do you think it's a really strong card? Do you think it's weak? Or do you just think it's okay? And if there was like any situations that I missed out earlier in the video where I think you could really use this card to its potential, let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more Shadowverse content in the future. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.